Hello, my name's Claire and I'm an Education Liaison Officer at the University of Hertfordshire. I'm here today to talk about personal statements, how you can write not just a good personal statement, but an excellent one, and how it's actually easier than you think. By the time you go away today, you'll be feeling much more confident about how you can make yourself stand out on paper, and you'll know exactly what universities are looking for. A personal statement is a short piece of writing all about you. You'll have written very detailed and complicated assignments at school or college, but this is all about you, so it's much easier. This short essay is about why you're the perfect applicant for the degree course you're applying to. It's 47 lines long, and roughly speaking, that's around 500 words or a single side of A4. Now it takes an admissions tutor less than 5 minutes to read, so why is it so important? University is competitive. UCAS receive 650,000 personal statements every year. Far more students apply than there are spaces available, and many applicants will all meet the basic entry requirements. A personal statement is what distinguishes you from others. It paints a picture of who you are beyond your grades. It's an integral part of your UCAS application, and it can make the difference between getting an interview or not, getting a higher or a lower offer, and even the difference between getting a conditional or an unconditional offer. Now, with those unconditional offers, remember that you're still expected to work hard. Your A-level results will be on your CV for a very long time. Every job that I've ever gone for has asked me for my A-levels. Plus, if you do achieve less than the minimum entry requirements, you're going to find the first year at uni very hard, because you're not going to have the skills that you need to do the course. So if you do receive an unconditional offer, take it in the spirit that it's intended, to relieve some stress and to be a safety net if things don't go as well as you'd hoped. A strong personal statement will also help if you go through clearing, because universities can see it when they're deciding whether to make you an offer. So it can be a real asset when it comes to making a good impression quickly and clinching that place. If you do find yourself in clearing, we recommend that you reread your personal statement before you call, as it can be a great confidence boost. So, that one side of A4 actually has quite a lot of potential. So how do you make your personal statement an excellent one? Well, excellent personal statements all achieve two things. Firstly, they leave a fantastic lasting impression, and secondly, to the admissions tutor reading it, the answer to this question is obvious. Why should you be offered an interview or a place on this course? Everything you write on your personal statement should lead the admissions tutor to answer that question in your favour. Why you? So when it comes to writing your personal statement, have a think about why you should be offered a place. How might you be different to other applicants? What can you offer? For example, it might be some of these things. Being able to answer the why you question is a skill that you will need throughout your entire life. Every interview basically boils down to those two words, why you? What is your unique selling point or your USP? A personal statement is just like an interview, but the big advantage is that you can prepare your answers. Plus, you can ask someone to read it through before you submit it. Now, I've mentioned admissions tutors a few times, but who are they? Well, they are your audience. They're the people who read your personal statements and decide whether to offer you an interview or a place. They are experts in your subject of interest, and it's highly likely that there'll be a lecturer on your chosen degree course. Now you can only write one personal statement for all of the courses that you're applying for, so that same personal statement will be read by up to 5 admissions tutors. So don't be too specific by mentioning your excitement to do a study abroad year, for example, if not all of your chosen courses offer it. Also, think about your course choices and how to make your personal statement relevant for each one. For instance, if you're applying for 5 courses that are all the same subject, like geography, your audience will be 5 geography academics. But if you're applying for courses which are a little varied, say history, history with journalism, history with philosophy, you will need to make sure that everything you write is relevant to each course, to each admissions tutor. Admissions tutors are looking for a genuine interest in the subject, a strong potential. Are you likely to do well on the course? And will you be an asset to the university community? They read hundreds of personal statements, and it's highly likely they'll only have time to read each one once. So your personal statement needs to be easily read and understood. Today we're going to be talking about research, content, and presentation of your personal statement because they're all equally important. Research is so important. Make sure you fully understand the course you're applying for. Find out as much as you can and think about what skills and personal attributes are going to be needed. That way you'll know what's relevant to talk about in your personal statement. So, where do you look? Well, UCAS is an excellent place to start. They've got a fantastic subject guide area where you can find out about the courses on offer across the UK and also about the universities themselves. You'll not only be able to find out information about the subject and the entry requirements, but there are some really interesting frequently asked questions there as well, like what is it like to study this course and what job can I get at the end of it? Researching the course will let you know what skills you'll be developing during your studies. If you can show that you've already got the potential to master those skills, the admissions tutor will be really interested in you joining the course. So, for example, if you want to study paramedic science and that discipline needs people who are resilient, you need to give an example of something you've done that proves you are resilient. For example, have you taken part in Duke of Edinburgh, or are there other challenges that you've overcome? Can you talk about how and what you learnt from the experience? Also, check out the university websites. Our course pages have loads of information, from what you'll study in each year to photos or even videos where students talk about what they love about the course. A lot of courses will also have their own social media channels, so if you've got Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, why not follow them and see what they're up to? All of this will inform your understanding of the course. Research the profession you're wanting to go into. What qualities, what core values underpin your future career? To give you an example, if you'd like to go into one of the health or social work professions, it might be worth bearing in mind the 6 values that the NHS prides itself on: care, compassion, competence, communication, courage, and commitment. And they're known as the 6 C's. So for this profession, those are the qualities that your future managers will be looking for. What better way of proving to an admissions tutor that you've got what it takes than by showing them that you've got the qualities employers will want? So think about that next step. Research the professional bodies attached to your chosen profession, because that will provide an insight into what your admissions tutors are looking for too. We've put together a guide that you can use to structure your personal statement. Part 1 is your opening few sentences that need to grab the reader's attention. It's a summary of why you want to study your chosen subject. So you could talk about what interests you about it or where your passion began. You can expand upon this throughout your personal statement, but for now we just want a clear and engaging summary. So my top tip for writing the opening would be to imagine you're in the lift with an admissions tutor and they've asked you, why do you want to study this subject? You have just a couple of floors to talk to them before they leave. The idea is that when this short encounter ends, you'll be memorable for all the right reasons. Often asking yourself some of these questions out loud and recording your answers can bring up some really interesting ideas. So before you start writing, ask yourself some of these questions. Why do you want to study this subject? What inspires or interests you about it? Why does it matter so much? How did your interest begin and what confirms it for you now? Why are you certain that you want to spend the next 3 to 4 years studying it? The answers to these questions could unlock a very powerful opening. When it comes to writing your opening sentence, and particularly those first few words, take the time to write something that's original and that's personal to you. According to UCAS, these are the most overused opening sentences. Now think back to that lift. If you start by saying the first 5 words that the last person said, the admissions tutor is going to think they've already spoken to you, and they're not going to give your answer the attention that it deserves. Plus, these cliched lines don't really say anything. Nothing is learnt about your motivation or experiences, and they could even raise some doubts. Have you really always wanted to be a paramedic? Did you know that when you were 1? You want to make sure you don't lose a fantastic elevator pitch in a cliched opening. Your sentence starter needs to give the impression right from the start that this personal statement is going to be new and fresh. If you're struggling for an opening sentence, you may think that a famous quote could be the hook you need to get started. Nelson Mandela said, "Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world." That's a powerful statement, but does it belong in your personal statement? In 2015, this was just outside the top 10 most used opening sentences. If you come across a quote that looks perfect, it's highly likely that you're not going to be the only one to find it. Plus, quotes are from other people and we want to hear from you. It's called a personal statement because it's just that. It's personal to you. These are our top tips for writing the opening. Think of your reason for wanting to study your chosen course. Demonstrate that you've done your research. Mention a skill or experience you've had that's relevant to your course. Get to the point quickly and make sure that you're beginning to cover that golden question, why you? Don't get stuck on coming up with a catchy opening. It will happen naturally, so move on and come back to it later if you need to. Don't use famous quotes or cliches, and try not to use rhetorical questions. They don't add anything and they use up your word count unnecessarily. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you a few examples of opening sentences. My name is David Jones and I was born in Hertfordshire. Now this biographical information isn't important and it's certainly not a powerful opening. And it's not relevant. Where you're born would not affect the decision on whether to offer you a place. I would like to study business as I am very interested in business. This is a circular sentence. It doesn't tell the reader anything and it's certainly not powerful. I have been interested in science since I was born. This is highly unlikely. What this person is probably trying to say is that it's a long-standing passion. but they could communicate this in a different way by talking about what first inspired them and what inspires them now. Here's another example. Why I want to study geography at the University of Hertfordshire? Simple, to help me develop and strengthen my knowledge in that area and to come out of it with a degree to my name and go out into the world and make a difference with my newfound skills. Firstly, this mentions a specific university. What about all the other universities who are reading it? It uses a rhetorical question, so it's taking up that word count unnecessarily. It's also fairly bland and generic. It says nothing personal about the applicant. But above all, it's a very long, meandering sentence. It's 39 words and it's very easy to get lost. How about this one for a nursing degree? At 14, helping at a day centre for the disabled and the elderly, it consolidated my desire to work with vulnerable people and to specifically become a nurse. Working with these patients came naturally and I thoroughly enjoyed interacting with such a diverse group of people with different abilities and needs. I can't think of anything more rewarding than helping people feel better. Here they've demonstrated a genuine interest by talking about their work experience. They have a good understanding of the profession. You get a feel for their personality. They have good people skills, good communication skills, and they're proactive because at 14 they were already looking for opportunities. Part 2 is where you prove that you're genuinely interested in the course. It's likely that you'll be studying for 3 to 4 years, and admissions tutors want to know that you've got the commitment and the enthusiasm to succeed. So reflect upon what you've done and analyse its impact. This is a chance to talk about any reading you've done, films or documentaries you've watched, any exhibitions, public lectures you've been to, any hobbies, volunteering or work experience that you've done that's relevant to the course that you're applying to. It can be tricky to find specific work experience, but there are always ways to find relevant experience. For example, if you're interested in law but you've been unable to get work experience at a solicitor's, you could sit in the public gallery of your local magistrates, Crown or Supreme Court. You can find out online when these courts are sitting and you can usually just turn up on the day. Or perhaps you've joined a debating club at school. Do you have experience of persuasive writing? Have you written a letter that's been published in your local newspaper? Is there a current news story which has legal implications that interest you? If so, you could talk about what they are and why it matters. There are so many ways that you can prove you have a genuine interest in the course. Now, it's very important that when you're proving you have a genuine interest, that you don't just list what you've done. Instead, we want you to reflect back and analyse. What did you learn? How did the experience challenge you? If you were inspired, can you tell us why? We want to see that you're a proactive and an independent learner, which are exactly the skills you'll need for university. So, for example, if you're applying for an architecture course and you want to talk about a city tour you've been on, can you analyse the experience? Can you tell us why some buildings interested you more than others? Did they all have something in common? What was the best part of the tour? Maybe it was talking about ideas with other people who shared your interest. If so, can you tell us about the impact that experience had on you? I've been talking a lot about reflecting and analysing upon what you've done. Now there's a really easy rule to remember when it comes to doing this, and it's called the ABC rule. So A is for the activity. What have you done? B is for benefit. How has it benefited you? And C is for course relevance. How does this experience relate to your course? So, It's all right to tell us what you've done. It's better when you analyse its impact, but it is cracking when these examples demonstrate the key skills that you'll be needing on your course. So when you're thinking of an example, run the ABC rule to check that you're using the best one in the right way. Part 3 is where you need to demonstrate that your current academic skills are relevant for your chosen degree. Even if you're not currently studying the subject that you want to study at degree level, it's highly likely that you'll have transferable academic skills that will be relevant. We want to hear about your academic potential. We want to know that you can handle the demands of a degree. Here are some academic skills that you might want to talk about. But again, don't just list them. Think of an example and bring it to life. So, you could talk about that team project you've done, and then you could talk about your time management skills, your communication skills, or your leadership skills, or even your ability to motivate others. Then, think about the degree that you're wanting to study and choose the right skill to highlight. So, if you want to study sports coaching, you might decide to talk about your ability to motivate others on that project. Whereas if you're wanting to go into business, you might want to talk more about your leadership skills. Think of the C in the ABC rule to check that you're using the right example in the right way. Part 4 is all about you. It's all about your personal qualities. By now, the admissions tutor knows why you want to study the subject, and they know that your interest is genuine. They also know you have the academic skills to succeed. But they want to find out about you, your personal qualities, what drives and motivates you to succeed. If there is anything that you really want to talk about, but you haven't had the opportunity to do so far, this is the section for that. So think about your extracurricular activities and the skills they demonstrate. For example, if you fundraised for a charity, you could talk about your communication and organisation skills. Or perhaps you've represented your county for a particular sport. If so, that could reflect your motivation and self-discipline. Or even if you have a part-time job and look after your nan twice a week, that would highlight your sense of responsibility and time management skills, which are excellent personal qualities for university life. Part 5. A final thought. A concluding sentence or two which seals the deal. It needs to confirm what the admissions tutor has been thinking all along. I must offer you an interview or a place. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of conclusions. Firstly, in conclusion, I believe that my passion for astrophysics and my strong work ethic make me a perfect candidate for the course. Now, what do you think about this one? In our opinion, this is fairly bland and generic. Anyone could have written it, and it's cliché. How about this one? I want to succeed in business, and I mean business. In our opinion, this is an unsuccessful attempt at humour. The delivery just doesn't work as well when it's on the page. So do take the time to make sure that your conclusion is as powerful as your opening. Here are our top tips for writing the conclusion. Firstly, think about the feeling that you want to leave the admissions tutor with. Imagine that these are the last few words you're going to say before they step out of that lift. So how do you create the right tone, and how do you do it without repeating what you've already said? Well, you could talk about your career goals and your aspirations, or what you're particularly looking forward to on the course. You could write about what you want to get out of the university experience. Make sure that your conclusion has an energy about it and it doesn't just fizzle out. This is your final moment to make an impact. Hopefully you're now feeling a lot more confident about the content and structure of your personal statement. Now it's time to make sure that you're presenting your thoughts in the right way. There are now so many websites which act as an online shop. How items are presented is incredibly important. Have a look at these suits and think about which one you would click on. You're probably thinking that B stands out. It's an engaging photo. It encourages you to find out more. Now the other suits could be just as good, but we can't tell because they're lost in poor presentation. And that's exactly how it is for admissions tutors. The presentation of your personal statement can either draw them in to what you're saying, or it can make them feel irritated because they're forced to search for the point that you're trying to make. You need to make sure that the content of your personal statement doesn't get overlooked, just like these other suits, because of poor presentation. The admissions tutor needs to feel excited and intrigued to find out more about you. Reading your personal statement should be an enjoyable experience. Here are our top tips for excellent presentation. Organisation is key. Make sure that however you choose to structure your personal statement that it flows. An admissions tutor only has 5 minutes to read your personal statement, and you don't want them to spend any of that time getting confused and lost. Make one point well and then move on. It's really important that you don't have any spelling, grammar or punctuation errors. This piece of writing needs to showcase you at your best. Even if you consider yourself to be a fantastic speller, you might miss something because often the brain reads what it expects to see rather than what's actually there. Review your punctuation. We've read lots of personal statements which have what we call the marathon sentence. We've read sentences which are 86 words long. So many applicants get so caught up in their train of thought that they forget to put any full stops in. So read your personal statement out loud and check that you've allowed the reader to pause when they need to. Also, be careful if using exclamation marks, as they make your personal statement sound a little informal. Use your own vocabulary. Lots of applicants try to impress us by using words that they're less familiar with, and as a result they use them in an incorrect way. Admissions tutors are then thinking, what is this applicant trying to say, rather than, are they right for the course? So suddenly you've lost your audience. You can lose the power of excellent content by trying too hard with the vocabulary. So when you're considering which words to use, ask yourself, would I use this word in an interview? If the answer is yes, then go ahead and use it. If no, leave it out. Now, to demonstrate this, here is a member of staff from which university reading and reflecting upon his personal statement.
I'm looking forward to exploring further the different dialects which exist in England today, particularly the linguistic features of dialect and the lexis unique to individual dialects. There's too many use of the word dialect for one, and again, it's a bit try-hard. Lexis. I mean, I think that just means words.
Now we come on to avoiding repetition. Now that may sound like the easiest thing to do, but actually it's one of the hardest. You're going to be using words like interesting a lot, but there is one particular word that you'll want to use again and again at the beginning of your sentences, and that's the word I. And it's completely natural because you're talking about yourself. Now, don't worry about this in the first few drafts because you can find that you get caught up in how to begin your sentence rather than what you're actually trying to say. But on your final draft, go back through and look at changing your sentence starters. Switch those sentences around. You don't have to get rid of all the I's, that won't be possible and it will sound strange. But just read it back and check that you're not repeating I again and again. You will be amazed at what a difference it makes. It will make your personal statement sound so much more engaging and you'll find that you come across really well. On to humour. Now, some people do like to use humour to reflect the type of person that they are, and it can work really well. It can bring a smile to an admissions tutor's face, but it can also have the opposite effect. Sometimes humour just doesn't translate as well on the written page. So again, ask your family, your friends, your teachers for their opinion. Does your humour come across in the spirit that it's intended? If you're not sure, leave it out. And finally, don't copy. This sounds so obvious, but it's easy to feel tempted. There are thousands of personal statements online, and you're likely to come across one that says exactly what you want to say. And it's so easy to think, well, I'll just copy that bit over. But UCAS use software which checks your personal statement against all of those that appear online, and if they feel that you've copied, they will notify the universities that you're applying to, and that is not a good first impression. So trust yourself. You know what you're trying to say. Think back to that interview. How would you word your answer? Here are our final tips. Be objective. Try and find ways to improve your drafts based on what you've learnt today. Ask yourself, are you using the ABC rule? Are you analysing? Have you mixed up your sentence starters? Is your structure clear? Have you got a powerful beginning and conclusion? Imagine that you're the admissions tutor who's going to read your personal statement. Would you offer you a place? Give yourself enough time. It's never too early to write that first draft. The more time you give yourself, the more fun this process will be. Keep a notebook for moments of inspiration. If you're taking a gap year, talk about what you'll be doing and how it will benefit you. Explain why, after a year out, you'll have even more to offer the university. And the most important thing to remember is that you have a lot to offer. Well done for concentrating during this virtual presentation. I really hope that you found it helpful, and I wish you all the best of luck when it comes to writing your personal statement.